How's it going, folks? Recording another best ball draft here. Another one of the big boards. And got most of the rookies in the player pool here. And it looks like I got pick 112, which is not the most exciting, but we'll see what comes along down there. Guys, I really haven't been down in this area that much, but some players I'm interested in down there are like Kelsey, Javonte, Debo, Devontae Adams, but he usually doesn't fall quite that far. Sometimes he does. Not as super interested in Diggs down there, like just because I'd usually just rather take Kelsey if I'm going to take a non-running back down there. So far, I've only drafted Kelsey once, and this is my 17th draft, so wouldn't hate getting a second share of him. Just hang out around the field on Kelsey, see if he has a little bit of a better year than last year. I also think, Mark Andrews is likely to slide back a bit. I really had trouble getting Cooper Kupp shares. I finally got one my last draft, but that was my first one. I had to reach for him at 1-2 just because I kept getting 1-2, and I didn't want to be that overweight on McCaffrey, so diversified to a Kupp share the last draft. But he's been pretty hard to acquire. Wow, Tyreek going at the 1-4. You don't see that very much. I think I've taken Jamar Chase at the 1-4 before. I don't really love Derrick Henry and Eckler, and I've already taken 2 Ecklers and a Derrick Henry, so those are both guys I'm fine with just being at the field or even lower on. Especially Henry. I realize his foot injury is one a lot of people come back from, but if you're to take a look at the NBA and those foot injuries, those guys that are heavier like Zion and Joel Embiid and stuff have really had a hard time with similar foot injuries to what Derrick Henry's dealing with. And I realize that basketball and football are not the same, but I definitely think the fact that these guys weigh so much has been a part of it. I've got a few Debo's shares so far. Only got one Dalvin Cook, so I might go with something like Dalvin Cook and Kelsey, or I don't know. I feel like this 112-2-1 turn, even the 111, they're just often so confused as to what players to pick out of this jumble. I took a Javonte the last time I was down here. You gotta think Dalvin Cook for sure has the most upside. So do I just take the 2 old crusties and Dalvin Cook and Kelsey? I mean, I could do that. Let's take Dalvin Cook with our first pick, and then we'll think a little bit more about our other one. I don't really hate taking Mixon. I'm going to take Kelsey. I just don't think I'm going to take Kelsey that much. I pretty much, so far, I'd only taken Kelsey when I took a Kansas City stack of Tyreek, Kelsey, and then Mahomes to start off. And so, I don't know. I don't mind getting one there. Oh, it's kind of a tough spot. I think every time I'm down at this end, I'm just going to try to take different stuff than what I most recently have taken. I think the last one I took Javonte Debo, I think. Yeah. Last one I took Javonte Debo, and then I've taken one where I took somebody in Mixon, and then Tyreek and Kelsey. Don't remember who I took when I took Dalvin Cook. Who the other person was. Might have been Debo. I guess I should start getting some Diggs shares, but I don't know. He doesn't really do it for me in that range, but I should probably start taking some of him. That's the early DeAndre Hopkins. That's the earliest I've seen him go. I think it's the latest I've seen Mixon go. So it will be interesting when it comes back our way, because we did not start off with a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds, which is a little rare for me. I saw Underdogs said something about 0 RB. People are going to be happy today. So really concerned that might be that they're moving to full PPR, which would be super lame. So I actually prefer full PPR to half PPR. So then why do I feel like it's super lame? Because they've just copied DraftKings at that point. They went from 18 rounds to 20 and from half PPR to full PPR. So everything that was unique and interesting about Underdog is gone basically if they make those change to full PPR. So I would definitely not like to see that. I think Higgins, Akers, and Pitts are all really good values for the next few people that get lucky enough to take those guys here in round 3. Pretty interested in Cam Akers in the middle of round 3. He was going a little too early before. He was going around the 2-3 turn. So I actually haven't drafted a single Cam Akers yet, but at his new price, I will be happy to. At his old price, I was not happy to. I do think Darrell Henderson's an insane value in these two. I think I mentioned that in the last couple of videos. He just goes later than all the other good handcuffs when we just saw him be the good handcuff again. Unlike, they played him ahead of Sony Michel in the Super Bowl, so you got to think even if Sony Michel would somehow end up back there, which I don't think he will, that Henderson would have a role. Could consider taking Patrick Mahomes if he's there at the turn to go with Kelsey. Definitely taking one. Okay, I think I'm going to not do that. I'm just going to take Keenan Allen. Then I could take Terry McLaurin or DJ Moore or Mike Evans. I haven't taken DJ Moore in a little bit. I've been taking Terry McLaurin a good amount lately, so let's do DJ Moore. Definitely more interested in Mahomes if I can get the full Tyreek Mahomes Kelsey stack, just because for Mahomes to pay off on his ADP and be a really, really valuable pick, he's going to have to absolutely smash, which basically means that Kelsey and Tyreek are both probably going to have to stay healthy and have good years too. So I'd rather just try to line up a few of those 3 KC stacks. Or maybe just take Mahomes with neither of them on occasion to differentiate and like when he falls or something in the draft, which doesn't really happen much, but I have seen it happen some. Some go pretty late round 4 in one of my recent drafts. So we're not really looking at much of anything for stacking at the moment. But that's okay. Herbert goes over Mahomes in this draft. That's interesting. I'm getting some super late round 4 Zeke, and that is nice value. I think Zeke is one of the most undervalued players in these drafts. It was RB6 last year. He's walking into the same role. He has been getting worn down, these seasons. And it's definitely a concern, but at the price that you're paying for Zeke at this point, the risk is super worth it. I thought I would not have any Zeke. Last year I had basically no Zeke. Last year I had no Zeke and no Saquon because I just ranked Jonathan Taylor ahead of both of them and was never going to take them ahead of Jonathan Taylor unless I got above 24% Jonathan Taylor. So I ended up with a few percent of each one. I think 2% Zeke and 1% Saquon last year. That part worked out, but definitely could have went south with one Jonathan Taylor injury. But I think it's important to have your core guys that you really want to get a lot of. And I think it's fine to be like overexposed in a season. Like you're not, like I look at best ball more as like a lifetime type of hobby, not like a 1 year thing. So like if 1 year goes bad, that's fine. We will try to make it up the next year. So I've been doing best ball now for 3 years, and the first year I absolutely crushed, and then the second year I did really well, and then last year was my least strong year. Mainly because I got absolutely just wiped out in week 16. So going into week 16, I had way more teams alive than like I should have based on, percentages and averages. But like all my teams that were alive had like similar players on it. So I guess that's one of the downfalls of being all in, like, right? Because I had 24% Jonathan Taylor and 24% Travis Kelce. And then, so they were both on like most of my teams that made it to week 16. Like some of the teams had both of them because of that time. Jonathan Taylor slipped to round 2 for a while. And Kelce didn't play that week, and Jonathan Taylor was like bad that week. So I got just crushed. I mean, a lot of people that had teams that like dominated all season went out in that week 16. It was kind of a bloodbath. A lot of fantasy analysts were up in arms talking about that week when the week ended. Like, what just happened to everyone? So, definitely interested in Kyler if he makes it to us. I probably won't take quarterback here. I guess there's Trey Lance, but I've kind of reached on a couple Trey Lances to get some stacks. So I think that this time of year, it's like perfectly fine to reach on your stack quarterbacks, which is something I preach don't do. But like right now, the ADP for rounds, 6, 7, and 8 is just insane. Like the players that are getting taken there could wildly change. We're going to have 2 really good picks here because 3 of the top 4 people on the sport I absolutely love. So, oh dude, that's tough. Well, I'm definitely going to take Kyler. Oh, kind of tempted to take Pittman and Breece Hall. All right. So we can take one of the other rookie running backs, Kenny Walker or Spiller if we really want to get a rookie running back. I do like Breece Hall quite a bit more than those guys, but I think his price has moved up now to where you're not getting a discount on him anymore. Like you're just paying what you're supposed to be paying for Breece Hall. So, I would probably never take Michael Carter over Breece Hall, but other than that, like the other people that go ahead of him probably kind of should be. I do think Breece Hall still has room to move up, though. Like, if he falls into a really good spot, like I could see him going all the way up to round 3. But like a good spot, it would probably have to be like Arizona for him to go in round 3. But I do think that's possible. I wonder if Pittman's starting to slip a little bit because like the Carson Wentz being out of the Colts news. But, that doesn't scare me much. I think Carson Wentz is kind of butt cheeks anyway. So as long as they have a human throwing football, I don't think it'll be that much worse. The end of the year for Carson Wentz was savagely terrible. Fournette's like pretty good value in these. Like he's another guy that can move up quite a bit if he falls into the right spot. Like say Arizona were to sign Fournette. Phew. He might be flying up to round 3 or 4. I think Arizona is probably the best landing spot for a rookie / free agent running back to end up where their value would be boosted the most. Because we just saw James Conner have 18 touchdowns or something ridiculous this last year. And like Chase Edmonds had a little bit of usefulness, but I would definitely like to keep this build to 2 tight ends since we took Kelce. I have occasionally if I'm going to stick to 2 quarterbacks or 2 tight ends, it's because I really like my second guy more than because of who my first guy is. It's like I want to have like a super solid second one if I'm going to stick to just 2. If Trey Lance were to make it back to us, I would consider it a pretty big mistake that we took Kyler over Breece Hall. That would sting. As long as Trey Lance is gone, I will feel good about my choice. So, Kadarius Toney's price is good. Trey Lance went. Kadarius Toney's price is kind of annoying. I really, really like him, but I also feel like he's kind of like overpriced to correctly priced one of the two. I didn't expect him to get quite as much steam as he's gotten. Wow, Knox and Goddard both off the board. He is one of the people in play for me, though. I'll tell you who I won't be taking, and that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because I loathe him. For running back, I kind of have interest in A.J. Dillon or either of the 2 rookie guys, Kenny Walker or Isaiah Spiller. There's tons of wide receivers I still have interest in, so I'm not really worried about getting one of those. Bunch of quarterbacks rip off the board here. Quarterbacks are just starting to go higher and higher and higher in these drafts, so that's like definitely a thing to keep an eye out for. Could go with 2 running backs here if we want. That kind of interests me a little bit. I think I'm going to take Kenneth Walker with my first pick. Now I could go A.J. Dillon. I don't really want to go Walker and Spiller because I've done that a few times. Or I could go with a wide receiver. I think I'm going to take A.J. Dillon here. It's only my second Dillon share. He's finally like starting to, be priced not ridiculous. He was going in like round 6 at one point, and I was just like, no thank you. But like it seems like they really want to use Dillon more at the end of the year when the weather turns. And Aaron Jones more at the beginning of the year. So, like, Dillon will probably be the main guy at the time when you really want to be getting the points. So, like, if Toney would have fallen to me there, I think I would have taken a wide receiver. Or if Garrett Wilson had, they both went. This group of wide receivers, like, are all, like, the only ones I'm really that in on are, like, Bateman and Claypool, but I've gotten, like, tons of shares of both, so. That's kind of why I was like, let me get an A.J. Dillon share. And I'm still trying to hammer these Kenny Walker shares and Isaiah Spiller shares while they're in these rounds because I think they could fly up. Although if Underdog is announcing that most of their contests are going to be going to full PPR, then running backs will just be gone, basically. Like, they'll just get pushed way down the board. Really hoping that doesn't happen. I love the fact that there's different strategies for DraftKings and Underdog. It makes like the whole ecosystem of doing these more interesting and more fun. Like the strategies and stuff. It would definitely be a huge bummer if they just copy DraftKings exact format. So one of the problems with Kyler right now is it's like nigh impossible to stack him. Like Hopkins goes before Kyler, and then Christian Kirk isn't even on the team right now. Rondell Moore absolutely sucks in my opinion. Want nothing to do with him. Although I might take him in this draft because if I am going to take like my 3% of Rondell Moore, it's going to be on teams that have Kyler Murray, right? But I think Rondell Moore's the bust. Like, I was really high on him after watching the tape, and then one of my buddies, and I have a lot of good arguments about rookies, and he was just like, "Listen, this guy is just what he does isn't going to work in the NFL." And he had the negative ADOT in college. It just doesn't translate. Like, the only person it's really worked with so far is Debo. And that's because Debo is a beast freak. I mean, even he's had a hard time staying healthy, and he's much bigger. So LaVisca didn't really do much. Wandel didn't really do much. So we'll see how that plays out. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire still on the board. Deep into round, he's just starting round 9. Interested to see how much longer he lasts. I have yet to take a single share of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's no interest, but I mean, I would at this range, like if I only had 2 running backs, I'd start to have interest. But I mean, I'd probably just take Spiller over him. I wouldn't take Tony Pollard over him. But I would probably take Spiller over CEH. I'd rather have the evil we don't know than the evil we know. Like, we think Spiller has problems, but we haven't actually seen him play yet. Melvin Gordon. Whew. Spiller off the board. I probably like Clyde Edwards and Ramondre Stevenson similarly. Sad as that is to say. Got some good tight ends still on the board, that's for sure. Strong wide receivers on the board. We already have 3 running backs, so we definitely don't need to prioritize a running back at all. Some interest in like Freiermuth or Fant. Oh no, are we really going to have Clyde Edwards-Helaire fall to us at like the 9-12? Please don't. Please take him. You have 5 running backs. You love running backs. Take Clyde Edwards-Helaire, please. Yes! Thank God. All right. So now we don't have to take him. I've got a lot of Fant, so I think I'm just going to take Freiermuth, and then I'm going to be all done at tight end. I guess, like I said, if we're going to take a Rondell Moore share ever, this might be the time, but I'm tempted to just take Tyler Boyd. All right. I will suck up my pride and take a stupid Rondell Moore share. Grotesque. Could have ended up with Zach Ertz later, but I just thought that was really good value on Freiermuth, and now we can just click off tight end, and it's all gone. We don't ever have to worry about that. So we'll probably just go with 5 running backs. I guess we could go with 6 because we're only going 2 tight ends. We'll have to see what happens at quarterback too. Like, we could still end up only taking 2 quarterbacks, or we could end up with 3 quarterbacks. It kind of depends on the next guy. So last year I was letting like the first guy really dictate that. Like if I took Mahomes, I was only going to take 2 quarterbacks no matter what. This year I'm letting the second guy dictate that. Like, is the second guy somebody that I think is pretty good and solid? So I've had some teams where I've ended up having to take like Jameson Winston and like a rookie as my second and thirds, and like definitely not rolling into the season with just Jameson Winston as my second quarterback. Just because if like he doesn't catch on with the team or something happens with his rehab or something, like then it's like really hard to win with one quarterback, even if it's a good one. Because like they still have bad weeks, even the good quarterbacks. So we got basically like the only stack piece we can with Kyler Murray, because Zach Ertz could still be available, but we're just not going to take any more tight ends. So we shut that door on ourselves by taking Freiermuth, but I think that's fine. Really like the value on him. A pretty weird wide receiver group. Definitely don't think I've had any teams that have had that collection of people. I haven't really ended up with Keenan Allen at all. I do have a good amount of DJ Moore. I have a decent amount of Pittman, and like that's my only Rondell Moore. So think that might be my first Keenan Allen share too. So I think one guy we want to keep on our radar is Kyren Williams if he makes it to us, which I don't overly expect to happen. I would like to kind of keep Darrell Henderson in mind. Like, I think Darrell Henderson should be going ahead of Rashid White, Chris Carson, and Ronald Jones, and Kenny Gainwell, and Gus Edwards. Like, he should probably be right near Madison, right? But he's not. I think because he was hurt and people kind of forgot about him for a while there. Jameson Williams is interesting, but the timing of his ACL injury, I don't know, I'm kind of probably avoid him. I do have like a share or two, but I'm not really looking to be overweight. I'd probably want to be about half the field on Jameson Williams, just because of the timing of his injury. Josh Palmer is a guy that doesn't overly interest me. Like most of the community seem to be pretty in on him. Like I don't see a world where the Chargers aren't bringing in like somebody else as their wide receiver too. So I just think he's way overvalued. You bastard, iFootball. I mean, I'm glad he took Darrell Henderson because I'd much rather have Kyren Williams, but I was hoping to get Darrell Henderson a few rounds from now. That sucks. We only have one quarterback, and the pretty solid second quarterbacks are drying up quick, so that's something we could consider at our pick. Not something we necessarily have to grab. Oh, damn, Jonathan Slander out. He's one of the guys I was looking at now, too. Well, definitely going to take Kyren Williams here, so I think he's easily the best pick on the board. All right. We'll take one of our Jameson Williams shares. Just saying I didn't love it because he's coming back from the ACL, but I do think he'll play at some point during the season. And, he could be a guy that's like massive for you in the playoff rounds. So I'm probably going to wait until the very last round to take another running back because these guys are like, this is definitely a very strong foursome. So I'll probably take like a James Ford or Tyler Algier or Damian Pierce or one of those guys in the very last round. So we're only really looking at wide receiver and quarterback the rest of the way. Quarterback is probably going to be like really rough when it gets back to us. I don't love Mac Jones for fantasy. I don't mind Zach Wilson. I don't mind taking Winston, but then I definitely feel like I have to take a third quarterback. Baker Mayfield, he could have like a bit of a bounce back. He had a really strong end to the year before. And then last year he was kind of useless, but he was also hurt for most of the year. Jimmy Garoppolo does not interest me for fantasy. If I'm going to take any of these rookies like Corral and Howell and Pickett, like it's going to be in a 3 quarterback build, even Malik Willis, because he's pretty dangerous on if he will actually get some sort of role. Love Jahan Dotson. I think he's probably the best wide receiver value in all these drafts right now. He's just like a guy that's probably going to go at the end of round 1 of the NFL draft. If not, he's going to go in the top 40 picks for sure. And he's going to have a role right away, and he can do like everything. He's really, really good. So I think he's head and shoulders above anybody that's available on this list. Definitely a guy I think when this big board is done, I'll have one of my highest ownerships will be Dotson. I'm not sure why people aren't really catching on to him as super fast. Chris Olave is like a really good value in these two, but I think he's the second best value for the rookie wide receivers. Zach Wilson off the board. So for me, Mac Jones, Willis, we just want Winston, Baker, all kinds of on there. I could see us going with a three quarterback build here because we're still going to get 10 wide receivers in this build because we're only going to take 5 running backs. So I like the way our running back room ended up. Like I said, Dotson would definitely be my number 1 running or wide receiver on this board. Then probably like Visca, Parker, Marvin Jones, all pretty close. So I'm tempted to just take 2 wide receivers and we'll see what happens at quarterback. We might end up having to take 3 and 2 rookies or something. Fucker. I got us again. I was really hoping to get Chenault and Dotson. So Dotson's the easy one. I think we'll take Marvin Jones. I'm expecting things in Jacksonville to go much, much better than they did last year. A couple of rookie wide receivers there back-to-back, and Williams and Dotson, but don't mind that. Does mean I'll probably shy away from like the Christian Watsons and those type of guys in the last couple rounds. This team is certainly not going to have much stacking on it, but that's okay. I definitely am not as concerned about stacking this year as I was last year. Wow, Dr. Stanky doesn't even have a quarterback yet. That's kind of crazy. Like we have a pretty good anchor in Kyler, so I mean, if we get pretty stuck at quarterback, it can still work out for us. But I would not feel good having 0 quarterbacks with the quarterbacks that are on the board. That's for sure. It's definitely one of the strangest drafts I've had. I don't know. I guess I just really haven't ended up at picks 11 and 12 all that often. Wandel Robinson's like another guy I don't really like very much. He's too much like Rondell Moore and Debo and Visca, except smaller. Some people think better, but I don't know. I think he played at like Western Kentucky, so don't imagine he was playing against the best competition there. So we definitely have our eye on QB. So we could pop over here and see what's available at running back. Khalil Herbert and Sony Michel both interest me a bit. Keyshawn Vaughn, I have a little interest in, but I've gotten some decent amount of shares of him, so. There's probably only 3 quarterbacks left where I would be comfortable having Kyler and just one of them, like Mac Jones, Ryan, or Mayfield. Pretty sure there's no real reason for us to only stick to 2 quarterbacks in this draft. So I might take a shot on a rookie in the very last round as a third. People are hating on Devontae Parker, huh? Antonio Brown, pretty good pick there. I've been trying to grab up a couple shares of him lately. do think there's a decent chance that he plays, and if he does play, I think it's going to be for the Ravens, which could throw kind of a monkey wrench for Mark Andrews and Bateman and Hollywood. If I was an owner of those players, I'd be quite disgusted seeing Antonio Brown go there. It's definitely hoping Devontae Parker made it to us. Right now, I kind of got my eye on quarterback and Marcus Callaway. Mac Jones goes. Oh, God, that guy took Winston, too? Jesus. Just killing us. I was going to take Callaway and Winston, but I guess we'll just take Callaway and Baker and then maybe grab one of the rookies in the very last round at QB. This dude crushed us on a few picks. I don't really like his team overall, that's for sure. That Michael Carter pick kind of destroyed his team. If that would have been like any reasonably good wide receiver, then like this running back group would look fantastic with the 5 guys, and he would have another good wide receiver where he's definitely struggling at wide receiver. Like if Calvin Ridley were just to not come back and be Calvin Ridley, he's pretty hosed. Dan Arnold's pretty good value tight end. So I think we might take a shot on like Matt Corral or Desmond Ridder or Howell with one of our last picks. Probably take a running back with one of our last picks. So what do we got? 17 and 18 will probably be wide receivers then. If there's any wide receivers we even like at all. Do like Cole Beasley quite a bit. I feel like he's very undervalued. I think he's either staying in Buffalo or going to be a starting slot wide receiver for a different team. Pickett went off the board, so if we want a rookie quarterback, we may have to take them at this next go round. If we want even Corral or Howell. I don't really have the stomach to take Desmond Ridder, but he does have rushing upside, so I think I might have taken him once, but maybe not. I definitely like Corral more, for sure. Taysom Hill. Oof. Wow, Taysom Hill is his QB1. That is not good. It is absolutely not where you want to be. Do not think Taysom Hill will be the starting quarterback for the Saints this year. I think it's even more likely that Jameson Williams is than Hill, just because of his injury. It's a multi-surgery Liz Frank, so I highly doubt Taysom Hill is ready anywhere near the beginning of the season. If it was like a more minor version of the injury, like it'd still be sketchy, but it would be maybe. But with it being the major version of that injury, I don't think so. So yeah, when you're at these turns, you really got to kind of fucking reach for people you like, and I hate it. I hate being at the turns. End up with such a long wait. Sterling Shepard's a guy off the board, don't want him at all. Achilles injury, like way too late in the season, way too old. I am not a believer in this Cam Akers miracle Achilles stuff. I think it was pretty amazing that he came back from it, but I'm not going to just start ignoring the injuries for all NFL players because one guy had an insane recovery from a really tough injury. I feel like people are just pretending like injuries don't exist anymore. That is definitely not my stance. They still were concerning me quite a bit. I'm on Beasley here. Braxton Berrios, maybe. Justin Ross is like an interesting one. That guy had like an insane start to his college career before having a back surgery and a bunch of other stuff. I think he had some other injuries as well. And he just went. I think we'll take Beasley if this guy doesn't snipe us again. I'm probably just going to grab Matt Corral as my other pick. I think he has a decent amount more upside than the other quarterbacks on here. I do like taking Davis Mills some, but since we have Baker, like I kind of already have the like boring safe guy covered there. This is a spot where I definitely could see staying with two quarterbacks, but like the fact of the matter was that I was really comfortable with these four running backs, so going with just five was fine. And like obviously Kelsey Freiermuth, you don't need to be taking a third tight end. And like we're already going to get 10 wide receivers in this build, so I don't mind just tossing a high upside quarterback. Like if Kyler were to suffer, like just a short term injury, say something like high ankle sprain where he's out 2-3 weeks, like maybe you don't want to only have Baker. I kind of want to have like two shots in there. Algier went off the board. He would have been one of the people we were interested in an RB. Let's toss our RBs in there. Jameson Williams definitely interests me a bit. We can toss him in there. Don't think he quite has the upside of some of the rookies. Somebody took Ford already. Jerome Ford's been getting a little harder to get. I think people have kind of picked up on him. Damian Pierce and Hassan Haskins are definitely guys that can end up with 2 down roles in timeshares. So those are a couple guys I like. Batty is like a guy who could end up on the opposite side of a timeshare. And, Jamal Williams, pretty decent handcuff. To Ernest Johnson, it looks like will be a decent handcuff, but we don't really know what's going on with the Brown situation. So, like, I would kind of rather take my Ernest Johnson shares later on because I think that he's not going to go up in price regardless of what happens. So, I kind of would like to avoid him if they're adding another, like, strong running back. There go all the vets. So we're going to hope one of these rookies gets to us. Guess we could throw Eno in there. He right now is the only running back under contract with the Cardinals, but the Cardinals aren't going into the season with Eno. They basically told us this season, like, we do not want Eno as our starting running back. They gave him very limited opportunities, even when there was injuries. Darius Slayton, somebody I really, really like. Let's take him. All right, we'll take Zamir White. This is a guy I've only taken once. And take a shot here. See what happens with him. Don't really like him as a prospect, but there's a lot of people that I respect that do really like Zamir White as a prospect. So I'll diversify there, but I don't think he's going to be amounting to much of anything. But I have been wrong before, so when there's a guy like this that a lot of other people like, that I respect their opinions, and I don't necessarily like them, I'll take some shots on them. Sometimes it works out. Like last year, I traded Joe Mixon for a 22 first that ended up being like the 1-5 and Kadarius Toney in the league, even though I didn't like Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney was actually my most owned player in all of best ball last year, despite me not liking him as a prospect, just because the price was ridiculous and there were other people out there that I respected that liked Kadarius Toney. And I do think that that was a pick that kind of hit, but you just didn't get paid off for it. He was obviously a very talented player, once he got on the field, but with the injuries and the COVID shit, it didn't work out for you anyway. But I still consider him to have been a hit last year, especially when you were able to take him around 18 a lot of the time. So let's take a look at this team. You got Kyler, Baker, Corral. It's pretty decent. Would rather have Kyler in just a solid QB2 I felt better about, but they just kind of all went pretty early. Dalvin Cook, Kenneth Walker, A.J. Dillon, Kyren Williams, and Zamir White. I love these top four guys. Don't really know much about White. I'm just taking a shot there. Haven't loved his tape or anything, but Georgia running back, so you never know. Maybe things will end up better in the NFL. And then we got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman, Rondell Moore, Jameson Williams, Dotson, Marvin Jones, Callaway, Beasley, and Slayton. Good mix of the young and the old, and some upside and some safety. And then obviously you can't really beat Kelsey Freiermuth as your two tight ends. So that'll do it for this one. And good luck in your drafts, folks.